All right, welcome to class. I forgot what week it was here. It is week 5. Sorry about that. So, week 5, we are going to focus on community engagement and involving community in your research project. One of the biggest issues with health disparities is that we're learning things, but the information that we're learning is not actually getting filtered out into the community. And community participatory research is something that has been, it's not new, but it's sort of infiltrated into more medicine and public health. So this week, what we're going to do is focus upon learning a little bit more about community engagement and partnerships. Communities can be critically important to the success of primary data collection. And I want you to just go through the readings this week, and I think what you'll realize is, if you don't know it, many of you may actually already know this, but communities can be helpful in everything from identifying the research idea that really needs to be addressed in that community, to identifying the factors that may be contributing to the health disparity, and we as people on the outside may never really realize that that's what's going on. Recruitment can be tremendously supported by having community involvement, and that can be something as seemingly small as working with community members on what logos to put on your flyers, how to describe your research, what's going to be appealing to folks in that community area. They also can help you with figuring out, these are the folks we want to get, how can we find them? How can we get them invested and involved in this research? Sometimes it may involve actually having those community members do recruitment for you. Retention can be a huge issue, that if you can understand what are the challenges to these folks' time, and how could we design this research to increase the chances that folks are going to really feel involved and engaged in it. And two huge factors are, or ways that community can be really, really valuable in our research, is having a community advisory board for your research project. That's something that's just, it's rare to see a behavioral psychosocial grant these days that doesn't have some kind of a community advisory board or some kind of community board somehow involved in it. And you can select some specific people to be on that who you believe could provide the guidance and the feedback that you need. We're very fortunate here at UIC to have, and I know many institutions across the U.S. have, the CCTS's clinical translational programs that have a community engagement core within that. So if you are at an institution that has one of those, seek out their involvement. They'll have already community members identified that can work with you, and they can look over materials for you. Another thing that can be critically helpful is getting those results out to people. In order to really have our results be meaningful, we oftentimes have to be the ones that carry the results back to the communities, and be it through community meetings, community-based organizations, posters, public awareness. There's all sorts of different avenues, but it's critically important that we're giving that feedback back to those communities. So it may be that your project is such, let's just say you're doing a secondary data analysis, but that the results of your study, surely that there's some component of that that would be really helpful for different communities in Chicago to be aware of. And so you can take the results and then go back, and what I'm going to have you do this week, your assignment, is to devise a community engagement plan of some type that you'll use in your final project, that it's related, again, to the disease or the group that you're focusing on. But I'm going to ask you this week to really be a bit more specific. So that is, if you're doing data collection, I'm going to ask you, well, pick some neighborhoods that you want to focus on. Or pick some community-based organizations that you want to partner with. Pick a couple of churches that you want to work with. Now, It's critically important when we're working with communities that we don't go knock on their door and say, I need you to sign this letter of support and I want to put you on this grant. Oh, by the way, my name's Lisa Sharp. It's critically important, as you all well know, that we have developed relationships with them. I know that for this project, many of you aren't going to have time to have developed those relationships, and that's really beyond what we're doing in this class. So we're going to by-step that step. What I'll ask you to do, if you aren't aware of community-based organizations in the neighborhoods that you want to target, or churches, you're going to just get on the internet and you're going to search around and you're going to do the best that you can to try to identify a few community-based organizations that you think would be good to partner with. Or you may say, I want to have a community advisory board, so try to find out what one of the bigger churches is in the neighborhood, or who's a stakeholder, the alderman, for Pete's sake. You know, somebody who in that neighborhood is going to be helpful to you and also be a liaison to the neighborhood there. And you're going to get as specific as you can in this plan that you're going to write up for your assignment this week in terms of identifying, again, individuals, organizations, neighborhoods, those kind of things that will be involved. And I also want you to be very specific about what role are they playing. What are you going to have them do? So if you do want to have them involved in recruitment, then you're going to talk about the methods for that. That you're going to have however many people come in, sit down, and you're going to have sort of a focus group type thing where you're going to show the flyers to people and get feedback. Or maybe you're going to have the logos set up and you're going to have them go through it and look at it. But I want you to be as specific as possible about who it is in the community that you want to engage with, and specific as you can about what roles, what purposes, how are they going to help you out with the activities involved in the project that you're developing, again, for your final project in here. We know, we recognize you don't have time to go out and make those relationships, but that's okay. The readings this week, I hope, will give you some sense of how communities can be tremendously helpful. There are a lot of different resources out there as well. Just go out there, have fun with this. I think this is a really important skill to be able to do, to think about this. How can we really partner? Because when we're talking about health disparities, you know, we've got to work with folks that are being impacted by them, that are living in the communities where this stuff is going on, in order to find out. I know in one of our projects, we wanted to do some recruitment from the park districts. And we think the park districts, how wonderful, we can partner with the city. Well, what we didn't realize until we got out there talking to folks is the gangs are fighting in this park district. There's a gang line right down the middle. If you hold your meetings here, nobody will come. There are all sorts of things like this. Churches, everybody says, oh, African Americans, you can get great response by going to the church. Well, that's not always the case, because just like everybody else, just because you're of one ethnic background doesn't mean that you have the same religious beliefs, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're religious either, or spiritual in the same way. So there's a lot of things that as academics working in the worlds that we work in, you know, we don't necessarily appreciate all of the uniquenesses and the preferences of the folks that we're really trying to help. So it's really important that we have a conversation with them about that. So if anybody is confused, as always, give me a call or email me. I'm more than happy to talk it through and help you sort it out. Or if you're having trouble figuring out how this fits in with your project. All right? See you next week.